Welcome back to day 33 of the podcast, folks. Today we're diving into one of the most intense and dramatic stories from the Bible, the 10 plagues of Egypt from Exodus 10 to 12. We'll focus on the last few plagues, particularly the locusts, the darkness, and the death of the firstborn. It's a story of resistance, divine wrath, and the struggle for freedom.
Absolutely. It's a powerful tale. So let's set the stage. Moses is still confronting Pharaoh, right? God keeps hardening Pharaoh's heart, and we're building toward the final confrontation. What's interesting is that God says these plagues are not just about judgment, but also about making his power known to future generations.
Right? God is making sure the Israelites will remember and pass down these stories. It's about building a legacy. Moses' job is to remind Pharaoh again and again that he's been given a chance to let the people go. If he refuses, the consequences will be catastrophic.
And that's where we get the locusts, right? Moses warns Pharaoh that if he doesn't let the Israelites go, locusts will come and cover the land, eating everything in sight. It's a graphic threat, everything from the trees to what's left after the hailstorm.
Exactly, and when the locusts hit, it's so severe that Pharaoh's own officials start questioning him. They're like, why are we still fighting this? Egypt is being destroyed. It shows how even Pharaoh's closest advisors are realizing the gravity of the situation. But Pharaoh, he still doesn't budge.
It's almost like Pharaoh's pride or fear of losing control keeps him from making the obvious decision. After the locusts, Pharaoh pleads with Moses again, this time asking him to pray and make the locusts go away. Moses does, and the locusts are swept away by a west wind. But here's the kicker. Pharaoh still refuses to let the Israelites go.
That's the real head scratcher. He gets relief, and yet he doesn't learn his lesson. Then comes the darkness. 3 days of thick, palpable darkness. It's so intense that people can't even see each other. The only ones who have light, the Israelites.
Imagine the psychological toll of that. You're sitting in total darkness for 3 days, not able to move, not able to work. It must have felt like the world was closing in. Yet even after all this, Pharaoh's heart remains hard.
And then Pharaoh tries to negotiate again. He says the Israelites can leave, but their flocks must stay behind. Moses responds by saying, no way, we need everything, our families, our animals, everything.
That's when Pharaoh snaps, right? He basically tells Moses never to come back, warning that if Moses sees his face again, he'll die. It's like Pharaoh's at his breaking point, but his pride and power still won't allow him to fully yield.
And this is where God tells Moses there will be one final plague, the death of the firstborn. Pharaoh will let them go, but only after this. The Israelites are instructed to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doors with its blood so that God will pass over their houses during the plague.
It's fascinating how the blood on the doorpost is a symbol of protection. It's not just a physical marking, but a sign of faith and obedience to God. That act, that ritual, is what saves them from the coming death.
It's a very poignant moment, both the culmination of the plagues and the beginning of the Israelites' journey out of Egypt. Pharaoh doesn't take it seriously until the death of his own firstborn son. And then, in the middle of the night, there's this great cry throughout Egypt. Pharaoh finally tells Moses to take the Israelites and go. But not only that, he also asks for a blessing.
Yeah, that's a twist. After all the stubbornness and hard-heartedness, Pharaoh, in his grief, pleads for a blessing. It's almost like a final moment of submission, but too little too late. The Israelites don't just leave, they leave with great wealth. They ask the Egyptians for gold, silver, and clothes, and the Egyptians hand it over.
It's almost poetic justice, isn't it? After centuries of slavery, the Israelites walk out with the riches of Egypt in hand. The Israelites leave in haste, taking their unleavened bread with them because they don't have time to let it rise.
That's one thing that stands out to me, the urgency. They couldn't wait for the bread to rise. It's all part of the Passover meal, what's known as unleavened bread. They were living in a moment where time was literally against them.
And the Passover meal itself is such a huge part of the legacy. Even today, Jews still celebrate the Passover, remembering that night when God passed over the Israelites' homes. It's a reminder of God's protection and the deliverance from Egypt.
Definitely. And there's a lot of symbolism in the Passover. For instance, it's not just about the meal, but about the entire Exodus experience. The blood of the lamb on the doorposts, the unleavened bread, the bitter herbs, all of it tells the story of suffering and redemption.
And it's remarkable how God's instructions for the Passover carry a deep spiritual meaning. Even the fact that no bones of the lamb are to be broken. There's a connection to the future sacrifice of Jesus, who is often referred to as the Lamb of God.
Right. That's the powerful connection between the Old and New Testaments. The lamb sacrifice in Egypt foreshadows Jesus' ultimate sacrifice. It ties the story of Israel's redemption to the bigger picture of salvation.
It's incredible how these ancient stories continue to resonate with people today. The Exodus is about so much more than just a historical event. It's a symbol of deliverance, faith, and divine intervention that still speaks to us.
Exactly. Even though this took place thousands of years ago, the themes are universal. The struggle for freedom, the persistence of the human spirit, and the power of faith. These are timeless lessons.
Well said. And as we wrap up today's discussion, I think one of the biggest takeaways from the plagues, the Passover, and the Exodus is that sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that come through great suffering. But in the end, there's a purpose behind it all.
That's a good point. It reminds us that while suffering is inevitable, there's often a greater plan at work even when we don't understand it in the moment.
Exactly. It's all about trust and timing. Sometimes it takes a while, but the bigger picture is always unfolding.
Well, folks, that's all for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of the Exodus. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep learning, and keep questioning. God bless.